And welcome back to Straight Talk. And boy, we do have a lot to talk about. And at first it started off a little bit slow, but now we're definitely getting into it. So Ross, your train of thought there.
The W5 did a thing.
Right.
They did it in Aguasasne, and they brought up that whole specter of smuggling, of organized crime, and so on. So there's pressure going on outside for the provincial governments and the federal governments to declare it a criminal activity and act on that. And so you have these various policing organizations. You have a guy like Mike Mitchell down in Aguasasne who's saying, but we've never been included in any of these discussions. So when that happens, if it does happen, under what conditions that might happen, the discussion is they don't want to come into Kahnawake. They don't want to do a 1988 thing. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with another Oka. But somebody out there is putting pressure, political pressure. I bet you that if there was it ain't going to happen anytime soon, but if there was a majority conservative government in Ottawa, it probably would have happened.
But that's what I'm saying is, it's when we're talking about, it's not what we consider whether it is illegal or not. It's if you look at, and I don't like to keep beating a dead horse, the laws of the land, whether we're here or not, are whatever laws we have are not the law of the land. We choose to follow some of the laws that this community puts into place. But the laws of the land is criminal code, the provincial code, and everything is, so whether or not certain individuals feel that some activities that are going on in this community are legal, and I'll leave it at that, is because I don't agree with some of those positions, are legal. On the outside, they're 100% illegal. So that's the difference. So getting back to the situation where they're now, the outside forces or the police and the government are starting to get more creative when they're dealing with going into any Native communities, and they're starting to use other issues to affect and do what they want in the first place. They're dealing with the cigarette issue the same way by going in and saying that proceeds it's criminal organization and it's gangsterism, and they're changing the laws to fit what they need to be able to do. The warrants are getting more open. They're going in for drugs and they're taking everything else and they're charging people for that. So you're getting charged even though for cigarettes, even though you're saying that it's legal. On the outside, it said it's not. So you know what I mean. So you're being tied into everything. So at the same point, what happens? We're taking this. You could have. Was it purchased with cigarette money or was it purchased with drug money? You don't know. So they just take it, and then you're saying, well, no, it's not. It's not. It's with cigarettes, and it's not illegal. And they're saying, I don't care. That's what the point I'm getting at the end of the day, what happens there, and are we?
What type of arbitrary? What type
are
of
we feeding it?
Arbitrary? What type of arbitrary system will be put in place in order to be able to decide which is which, and what are going to be like the procedures and the?
But the thing is, it's hard, is because as long as the outside forces are heading up any investigation of criminality in any Native community. And asking for the assistance, and we're assisting them, there's always that possibility that there's going to be jurisdictional issues. I'll leave it at that.
Well, there always is.
Yeah.
There's always been. That's not going to change, and I think it's going to be working through that muddy water of what is, because it is muddy water. Yeah. Whereas who's got jurisdiction, who's got that whole thing. And that's a lot of work to
But of course, you raise that up in terms of the seizure of property. Who determines whether it's
exactly?
You could say gambling too. You could say poker houses. The outside doesn't consider any gambling activities or gambling-related activities conducted by Kahnawake officialdom or by private interests to be illegal.
That's my point.
Could they seize the Mohawk Council and then turn the money back over to the Mohawk Council? I don't know.
Why not?
People say that all the time.
They should seize some chiefs.
Okay.
Anyways.
All right, let's move on here. The next subject that we wanted to talk about today was the Kahnawake Survival School. Of course, associated with the drug issue. Everything, as we talk about and we start to look at things that are going on in this community, everything is connected. We're talking about drugs, we're talking about violence, we're talking about But we're right now.
But
We're going to talk
we're
about.
also talking about how do you deal with that, you know? And one of the things, you know, it's weird because I went to a couple of meetings this week. I went to a meeting at council, it was a prevention task force meeting, to introduce, to me, like to talk about red flagging, how a policy is being developed and implemented
At
in
survival school.
At survival school, and it's about protecting the rights of the innocent. Not about dealing with the issue of drugs. You got to deal with the issue of drugs. That isn't the point. And then I did also attend the in-school committee with the combined school committee members and a lawyer from the MCK, talking about the draft.
The legalities of the policy.
Well,
right?
yeah, basically
Can we be sued?
how do you cover the administration and staff and perhaps the in-school committee by extension, the school board by extension, from legal ramifications related to how they implement the drug policy. And to me, you know, one of the concerns I'm going to make for me is how do you do this? I mean, I got from a couple of parents on the committee. Look, I understand people are deeply concerned about drugs, their children, and so on. And the issue is how do you do that? I mean, the way you do it is so important. But you have people who are so scared by it that they want to create a state of fear in the schools. And they said it, you know, that's what we want. We want kids in the school to be afraid they're going to get caught, they're going to get thrown out. You have clauses in there that talk about if a kid witnesses somebody, there are degrees of that. Okay, that's there in all fairness, but very vague on how you deal with it, except to say that, you know, somebody who didn't witness it and then tell on somebody, that they could be suspended and up to expelled as well. And you know, I don't. To me, that's not really helpful.
You know, the thing is, and I had mentioned this previously in one of the other shows that I was actually part of the student council that came up with the initial policy of expulsion, and not having been an angel my whole life as well. I remember at the time that the spirit of the school was much different. All right, and the type of student that was actually going to the school was different than the type of student that's going to the school now. All right.
The community is.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I've had several people come up to me and say, like, just say, like, well, thank you for, like, saying that. You know, that, okay, like, things have changed. Things have changed. You know, so how do you get it back to where the students tend to want to have ownership in that school and to be able to back up some kind of policy that comes forward. It's not just, the thing is like I said, when I was there, it wasn't up to the teachers and it wasn't up to the administration to make up the decision about our school. That type of mentality has changed a little bit.
Yeah, I talked to another student who was there when I was founded, and he talked about how the students used to talk to other students about why they needed them not to be doing that, why the community needed our minds to be clear, and that doesn't, you know, the concern is that it's still there.
What went on at the school as students, because like I said, we had a certain level of respect for the school itself, you know. And I'm not saying, like I said, there was the incidences where there was drugs, but they were reported by students.
But you know, I think that the direction that the community has been going in over the years, and fortunately or unfortunately, whether or not we agree with some of the things that we've done in the past, whether it's with this school or organizations or anything else, what was common practice before doesn't necessarily mean that it was illegal. It was legal to do.
No.
You know, people followed it, and the same thing as the laws that we have in this community. People follow it, but then because it's against the law in a lot of situations, how we've dealt with things in the past, now we have to look at how can we still deal with those issues globally or individually without getting caught in a lawsuit or without getting caught in going to court to deal with, you know, how can we resolve it.
That comes down to being the individual and how, like, okay, like as a parent of, you know, like, say as a parent, my child was caught taking drugs and was expelled, okay? and instead of dealing with that situation, I'm going to sue them for throwing my kid
Well,
out
look,
of
But you
school.
see,
there's another
but that-
thing
but
though,
that's
the
a-
other
but
thing
that's
to
a
me
situ-
is, the concern to me, look, is what do you do with the kids who are innocent?
But I mean, that's a situation that you're talking about.
And if we're talking about liabilities, and we're talking about lawsuits, how come we're not talking about the rights of the students?
Yeah, but it
The
is at
other
the end of the
students,
day.
But
the
I
ones
would,
that
but I
are
would, I would
not
want to put
taking
in there.
drugs.
But it
because-
is the rights of the
But
students
but
that
the
we're talking
discussion
about.
right now, from a legalistic point of view, with legal advice from a council lawyer and with the board, is that you're just gonna put the policy out there, and you're gonna hide it in the handbook and get people to sign the handbook, and that'll be the first warning, which is a perversion of that. And then you're not gonna put in what the procedures are, because you're telling people how to sue you.
But you see,
And
the
that's
thing is,
wrong.
but the thing is that those things are not for the person who's actually doing something wrong. It's for the innocent person, and that's the reason why I'm saying is being accused, and when you're the innocent party. You know what I mean? That's why that comes into play. It's not to put in. It's not in place for the person who is actually doing it. It's like a lock. Locks are for honest people. They're not for crooks, because they're going to break. They're going to get in the law.
Inform the students, inform the parents that these are what the procedures are. Don't say that, you know what, we're not going to put that in because we're going to tell people how to sue us.
I don't know.
But
That's
then, you
wrong.
know,
To me, it basically comes down to what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. The law is the law, but the law doesn't necessarily always mean that it's right.
no, it doesn't. But, but
and
unfortunately,
then if we're going to be operating in fear of the law, what are we teaching
One
our
of the things,
children?
what I wanted to say that night was, look, you know what, you want to institute a state of fear in the school, and all I can tell you is, you know what, the kids that are doing that, they are not afraid, okay? They're not afraid. It's the kids that are going to walk around and say, they're going to be searched at random in front of people, and they say, well, that won't be there, but it has happened. Okay, that's the
But I
that's the
mean,
issue, and what you do to those kids. I mean, we have to stop and think about that.
But I
We
mean,
really do.
the school's trying to get something in place.
They're trying.
to work out, and it's a learning process for them also, and they're trying to do the best they can with the situation and the resources that they have, and
But people don't want to hear anything.
I
They
know,
don't wanna
but
hear
you
it.
know,
They're
but
too-
it
they're
still
too
has to
rapid. All I say
happen.
is that we're living in a fearless world, and the only people who are afraid are the people there. And I'm not putting them down. They're parents just like we are.
And that wraps up another episode, though.
Yeah, so it's
passion.
with passion. Yeah.
So you know what? It's going to continue, and then
Yeah.
we'll still look in, discuss it and things like that. But I think that at the end of the day, it's still a community situation, and let's try to look at it as a community.
And
Yeah.
do it from all perspectives.
Try to be positive as
Yes.
well.
You've been watching Straight Talk. If you have any questions or comments surrounding this show or any other show, you can email us at mohawktv@hotmail.com or call us at 450-632-NEWS. Or you can email me at Michael Stock Sr. at hotmail.com and Ross at
RKM54 at simpatico.ca.
And I'll see you on Facebook.
and please call in and give us your opinion as to the situation in regards to the proceeds of crime and the money and where and call the council or talk to them and tell them where you feel that the money should go to.
Yeah.
You've been watching another episode of Straight Talk. Nyawa and Onagi Wahi.
Onagi wahi.